warm welcome to another edition of the live Magpie Circle YouTube show. And I was going to say, he's making a return, but he's not really fully fit. Leigh Curtis, welcome back, dear boy.
Good evening. How are we? All right? I'm sorry if I sound a bit croaky, but yeah, I'm not 100%. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, we've rushed you back, and we're going to try and get 30 minutes out of you before you keel over. And welcome again to one of our regulars, Chloe Page. Chloe, welcome.
Hi, you all right?
Yes, well, we're all smiles tonight. Although I understand after my geographical roadmap advice to you, Leigh, of going via the quick route via Stoke to Wrexham, it didn't quite pan out that way last night, did it?
No, your name was mud on several occasions as I was driving to the ground last night. Got delayed in Stoke in massive traffic jam. And then the main road into Wrexham, as you come out that back way through the A50, A500, it was shut. So I ended up having to take the scenic route. And then when I got there, I parked the car next to a pub, which is right next to the ground. Left it, darted to go and get my press ticket, and I said to the steward, is my car all right in that pub next door? And he went, how much do you value your car? So why? He said, they're showing the game in there. He said, so if I was you, I'd move it pronto. So I then had to go and run back and move my car. And then on the way back, dense fog, coming back through the back roads of Cheshire. That was an interesting drive, yeah. So it was quite an entertaining day, really.
But made all the more worthwhile by a clean sheet and a 1-0 win. Yeah,
brilliant performance. Really good in the first half. As some of the best, probably one of the best away performances in terms of possession and passing football we've seen this season. And then second half, it was all about their resilience. I thought defended heroically. Mark Ellis was absolutely outstanding. Didn't put a foot wrong. Don't think he lost a header. I think there were a few people in the press box a little bit nervous, but did you know what? I was very, very comfortable. I felt really comfortable. I didn't think that Wrexham, although they were bombarding Notts' box with a lot of long balls, I mean, never seen anything like it. It just came in from everywhere. But if you look back, I think only Sam Slocum had one real save to make, which was from the cross shot from Doyle Angus in the second half. And I felt pretty comfortable, to be honest. And I never really felt that Notts were in any real danger for as much as the ball that Wrexham had. They didn't really create many opportunities with it. So, brilliant performance, a lot of confidence, playing really well and doing it at exactly the right time of the season.
Chloe, you were watching it on the stream. What were your thoughts?
Funny enough, I thought exactly the same thing. We had the family round, and it's awful when you're watching it with people and they're like, it's all the comments every time there's a ball crossing, it's and it's like, that stresses me out more than watching the game. As soon as we scored, I just had a feeling we wouldn't concede. And then, like you say, all second half, even the ball's coming into the box from every angle, but they never really look like scoring, in my opinion. And I think that's been Ellis's best game defensive-wise. And I was a bit nervous before the game because obviously we'd conceded 2 not great goals a couple of days before, and then I saw that Rawlinson wasn't back. But to be fair to him, I can't fault any of the defenders yesterday. It was a quality performance, especially first half and then defensively second half.
Yeah, I knew we'd be fine. Not that we're a superstitious lot in football. In the back of our garden, we've got all these like bird feeders. And normally the squirrels dominate it. But yesterday afternoon, one big magpie flopped down and was chewing away on the bird feeder. And then 30 seconds later, 2 magpies came. So at that point, I knew we would be fine. 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy. And believe it or not, in the Jurassic era, before you were born, Chloe, probably even a bit early for you, Leigh, Jimmy Cyril was very superstitious, And if he was on the team bus and they'd see one magpie, the bus had to keep circling round till they saw another magpie. Genuinely. So all the football people are some of the most superstitious people ever. So 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy. 2 magpies in the Mace garden about 5 o'clock yesterday, feeding on the bird feeder. I knew we would be all right.
So I'll let you into a secret. I salute them every time I go to a game now, and I've done it for the last 3 or 4 years. No, not that it's done much good in some
I was
circumstances.
going to
But
say, we dropped out the Red League.
every time I see one, you're supposed to salute them, aren't you? That's what you're supposed to do. So I haven't quite got to the phase where I'm driving around Nottinghamshire if I just see one and trying to find another one. But if I see one, I make sure I salute it and ask it how it's doing and hope the wife's okay.
Chloe, any magpies in your garden?
We get quite a few, to be fair, and I every time I see them, no matter if it's on game day or not, I'll always hope that there's two, and then it's kind of, especially if it's on the day, and I'm a bit like, oh, there's only one, but it's never really worked like that, thankfully.
Okay, lots of listeners and viewers as always. Stephen Orton, happy birthday, Rashid Harkook. Rashid tunes in and watches some of these shows. He's 65 today. That's the same Rashid Harkook who 40 years ago scored the winning goal at Chelsea to put Notts County into the top flight of English football. There you go, Chloe. We were a good team once. Elvis Bott, I hope everyone sticks to COVID rules on Saturday. I think a lot have not even read them and think they can do what they normally do on a match day. NCFC Pie, evening all just about recovered from last night's second half nerves. Fantastic performance from the team, though. Ballum, our resident Londoner and Sutton United fan, says hello. Chris B, the PE teacher, isn't doing a bad job. I wonder who he means, or is it all down to Doyle? Ballum just says nonchalantly, you should win against Plymouth. A good performance is needed. James Tomlinson, come on, you pies, ready for a great atmosphere Saturday. Drums ready, sing your hearts out. Now that must be the geezer we blame for the ruddy drum then, is it? Which I will probably be very close to, as I am somewhere on row JJ at the back of the cop. Andy Newham, is there still a stream being shown Saturday? Not all of us are lucky enough to have a ticket. I believe there is, Andy. I saw something posted on the club website only an hour or two ago that there is a stream. Chloe, you do some part-time work at the club. Is that right?
Yeah, so they're still providing the stream for obviously those that can't come. But I have heard as well, because I was there the other day when they sold out in the morning, but then the day after that, we've been allowed to open the family stand-up. So I know the waiting list, they've been getting through that. So if you are on the waiting list, I'd probably expect a call if you haven't already.
And it sounds like right on Q80, Clark has had a call. He says further tickets in the family stand available. So I've just got mine. Come on, you pie. So with a bit of luck, we will be pushing 5,000. And you know, great news. Thank you, guys. We'll continue to try to keep you updated as best we can. You can probably see two of these shirts behind me. The FA Cup run of 2000 and roundabout 17. This one here is this one's Duffy's, Richard Duffy's. This one's Sean Brisley. If you are not a subscriber to the channel, hit the little red button, please. Entirely free. We've got something like 948 subscribers, 52 more. Let's get it done by Saturday. 1,000 subscribers, and you choose as a lucky winner drawn at random. As soon as we get 1,000 subscribers, you choose one of those two shirts. Entirely unique, as you can see from William Hill, that did a special sponsorship for us in the FA Cup. Gary Smithhurst also got 2 family stand tickets today, was called just before midday. That's good. So we are getting more and more fans into the ground. Right. As always, when you make any opinions on social media, Leigh and me, people will hold you to account. And as long as that is done in a fair and transparent manner, we have absolutely no problems with that. So I've been taken to task about my Ian Burchnall delivery about 2 weeks ago on Twitter. You have been taken to task by others on Reuben Rodriguez. We front things up on this show as long as it's done properly. Do you want to go first, Reuben Rodriguez? I'll then go Ian Burchnall.
What do you want to know?
Well, people are pointing out that Reuben was having a tough time of it.
Yeah.
And now, you know, he's on the verge of being picked for the Portuguese European champions, for European squad for his country. Such is the vagaries of half a dozen good games. So talk to me about your views on Reuben and his renaissance.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the last time I came on, we was sort of debating, and I sort of said, well, I don't understand. You know, when they brought him into the club, we've seen him play in numerous positions. We got to interview him actually after the game against the recent home game, and I asked him actually what he felt his best position was, and he said a 10. So didn't really like playing down the sides. And of course, as I've said before, we don't really play with a 10. But I think the masterstroke, two things that have happened, I think, of which you've got to, give Burchnall credit for, is A, he pulled him up on his standards in training and give him a kick up the backside. And that seems to have got through to him, because since he's come back from that, he's played really well. And I think playing him up front in this sort of, I spoke to briefly about this to Ian last night. He seems to have been given a role where, and Ian said that this is pretty much the case, is that he's just been given a bit of a license to roam. So if you look at him, he doesn't play like a second striker. He just drifts. You see him come up, dart up on the left-hand side, the right-hand side. He just seems to drift into whichever space where he feels he can hurt the opposition. I think it's been a bit of a masterstroke, to be honest, because obviously he's come back and he's obviously taken the kick at the backside. Some players can sort, but he's taken it on the chin. He's come back. He's playing some superb football, and I don't think I've ever said that I've doubted his ability as a footballer. If you go back, from when he first came in, I said I felt he's got all the ability in the world, but the problem was he would have one good performance, and then he would go 2 or 3 or 4 games, and then he would bring another. Then you'd have another good one. It's the Dagenham game when we played with 10 men. He was absolutely superb that game, and I think I remember writing afterwards. Was that the performance that was going to light the touch paper for him? But it never happened. But what he's doing now is what we were talking about. He's being consistently good, and it needed someone to step up to the plate. Because we were all wondering where the goals were going to come from. And you've got to pay full credit to him and the manager, because the manager's obviously got into him and he's come back. He's given him a position which I think nobody would have felt that he would have predicted it would have played up front with Kyle. But, he's certainly making the most of it. He's a wonderful player to watch. I think he got a little bit tired last night. The same with Calvin Miller. I think those two players have both put so much into recent performances. I think it just finally caught up with them last night. So I think that's why they were both substituted. But no, it's brilliant, because it needed somebody to share that burden of scoring goals, and that's what we were saying all along, wasn't it? We had Carl Wootton. He was the sort of the man tasked with leading the front line, but Reuben's come in now, 6 goals. He's doing a fantastic job, and long may it continue.
Very good. Okay, Ian Burchnall. So I think it's on the same show, Leigh, probably 3 to 4 weeks ago. And I spoke about Ian's managerial record in Sweden and in Norway, which is a matter of record and a matter of fact. Now, clearly some people didn't like that. The point I was trying to make was we were asking Ian to do something that, from a point of view of producing results, he's never been able to manage in his previous managerial career, which I believe is a very, very valid point, because as such, he is going to be judged as a success by getting Notts County into the Football League. Job well done, and probably within 6 months, if Notts are doing well in the Football League, he will get a bigger job elsewhere. That's kind of how football works, irrespective of a 4-year contract, because he will be managerial hot property. Conversely, if we don't get up this season, and at one point a lot of people thought we wouldn't make the playoffs, that would have put him under a huge amount of pressure from supporters in terms of being able to deliver results next season. What he has done is delivered results. Now, some people have spoken about Michael Doyle's role. I think that's actually very, very influential. But the buck stops with the manager or the head coach. And so Ian Burchnall is deserving of all the praise that comes his way. But we are only on the very early part of a journey. And I would point out, I was about 1% of people who said a month ago, this is a group of players that can go on a run of form, get results, and get into the playoffs. And when we look down if you can go back and look at all the messages, Everyone was laughing at me. You're deluded. You're stupid. Not a chance. Even if we got into the playoffs, there's no point getting there because we'll just get beaten. But you get momentum. Things change an awful lot. They change very, very quickly. We're now in a very good position. I also think that the combination of Ian Burchnall and Michael Doyle is far, far, far more potent and far more productive than the combination of Ian and Maurice Ross ever could have been. Clearly, the change in fortunes of the club has been since Maurice Ross left. Okay, that was Ian's appointment. That clearly didn't work out. Let's move on. What I think is important now is everybody gets behind Ian Burchnall, Michael Doyle, and every single player in this club. Because I still maintain the best chance we've got of getting back into the Football League is this season over the next 2 months. We've got a far better chance of doing it in the next 2 months than having to go through the whole slog of a season next year. Okay, that's my answer. Andy Stokes says, looking forward to a crowd in on Saturday. Means I won't just be reading out the teams to Leigh and co in the press box. It's that Andy Stokes. Is that?
Yeah, Andy.
Yeah, it's very good. Trevor Scanlon. Leigh, I think I mentioned last week that the turnaround with Reuben has been since Doyle became assistant coach. Do you think there is anything in that? I've kind of just been talking. I hadn't read that, Trevor. Paul Hawksworth, the turnaround has been staggering. Chloe, the younger generation, the turnaround. What are your thoughts on it all?
I don't think you can put it down to a coincidence, really. I think it was too much of good timing if you kind of want to ignore the fact that the turnaround has come round since Doyle's been in. And I've said it before, I think it's really influential that he knows the players inside out. He's the one that knows them better than anyone else. He's been with them the most. He trains with them. He's on the pitch with them every Saturday, every Tuesday. So he's got the best opinion to give back to the manager. And it's worked. And all we've seen is him. I think I read somewhere that he has like an 88% winning ratio. Obviously, he has one, drawn 2, I think, since he's been in charge. So you can't put it down to coincidence. And just to go back on the Reuben thing as well, I think that it must be helping Ian out with a bit of the load that he can have a second opinion that's not just kind of seeing it from the touchline. He's also seeing it from on the pitch. And like I say, he knows the players as well. So maybe he's put an arm around Reuben, or it might be positional, but whatever it is, it's working for not only Reuben, for the whole squad.
Yeah, comments coming through. We'll read them all out as long as they're polite. Elliot Burrows, we were playing well before Doyle was involved. Brackets, Solihull, Torquay, Weymouth second half. Sounds like people are still struggling to give IB the praise. Not really listening there, Elliot. I'm sorry. NCFC Pie. It's obvious that Burchnall was feeling the brackets stupid pressure and comments from so-called supporters from his comments in post-match to Charlie about glad not meeting fans after the Altrincham game. I do think people need to get that from NCFC Pie. I think people need to get out of this rut of championing Ian Burchnall to the nth degree and slaughtering Neil Ardley. And those who feel Neil Ardley was absolutely brilliant and should never have gone, and saying Ian Burchnall is completely rubbish. Divisive factions will never lead to anything. We all, as Notts County fans, should be extremely happy. The team is currently on, I think probably, Leigh, or correct me if I'm wrong, its best run of form this season. Okay? And we are the form team of the teams in the playoffs. And if we win Saturday, we are in the playoffs. Whatever. With a home game against Weymouth, that 95% of our supporter base would have laughed at you if that was going to be the case. Leigh?
Oh, it's a fantastic opportunity, isn't it? I mean, I think they'll go on and beat Weymouth for the weekend. Got no fear about that whatsoever. And there's always that one team, isn't there, that gets that momentum, comes out of nowhere. And the way they're playing at the moment, they seem to have found the mojo. I think crucially, I think the midfield is being a lot more aggressive in terms of how forward it is, in terms of its attack. Noticed last night, particularly in the first half, Jim O'Brien and Jake Reeves were playing very, very high. And again, you have to give credit to the manager for that. And I, to be honest, at the moment, I'm quite confident. I'm quite confident. I think obviously it's amazing how things transform. I understand why now managers say judge us after 46 games, because everyone looks foolish, don't they, during the middle of the season? You sort of say when they're on the back of 6 games without a win, you're saying they've got no chance of the playoffs, and then they win 6, and you're thinking, right, we might be able to win them. And of course, it's 46 games what count, or however many it is this year, but. No, I think it's. I'm really confident. I think they're playing really well at the moment. Players are stepping up to the plate. Calvin Miller, I think, needs to have a great degree of credit. I think he's been brilliant since coming in at left wing back. And they are the sorts of players who perhaps earlier on in the season weren't being consistent enough. They come in for a game or two, then they get dropped out. But now the time that we need them, they're coming good, and that can only bode well. And the only thing I would say is it'd be nice to go into that last game against Bromley with it all secure, and maybe even have the chance to sort of rest 1 or 2 players ahead of the playoffs, if I'm being perfectly honest. Because, losing Alex Lacey is a blow. Obviously, he's not going to be... So you don't want to really pick up any more injuries. It's like the same with Conor Rawlinson at the moment. He's struggling with his hip. So I'd really like to be in a position where we get it done and dusted on Saturday, go into that last game, and just change a few things around and get everybody fresh for whoever we play in the playoffs.
Chloe, how much more exciting that, as a fan, Notts County are not now involved in a playoff push than the season petering out in 9th or 10th place?
I think you go back to a few weeks ago and there was a lot of, everyone was kind of like, this is it, we're not getting playoffs. And I think I was on a podcast where a lot of people were laughing at us saying, you know what, you put a run together and you give yourself the best opportunity. And when we were losing and we hadn't had a win for however long it was, we needed to be the informed side to get a playoff place. We're now the informed side, looking like we're going to get a playoff place. And every week after every game, I look at who could we possibly play if we finish 5th, 6th, 7th. And I think that no one wants to play us. And as much as we say, oh, I don't want to play these, I don't want to see them, I don't think anyone wants to play us with the form that we're in. And I think, like Leigh says, Bromley, it'd be nice to rest players, but you might laugh at me for saying this. I'm quite glad that we're playing that extra game and not going straight into the semi-final. With the form that we're in, the best thing we can keep doing is keep playing. And I think that as long as you don't pick up another injury in that extra playoff game, then it's going to give us the best chance that we've got, to be honest. And all we can do is keep playing and keep winning and keep keeping clean sheets, and it's only going to help in the playoffs.
Kyle Sadler, and I think this kind of sums it up. He said, it's exciting being a Notts fan, isn't it? Right now it is. It's not always been the case for quite a long period of time. A.D. Clark, you were quite right about the players could turn it round. Paul, well predicted. Can you tell us tonight's lottery numbers? No idea. Colin Metcalf, it's nerve-wracking. But this is why I stick with it in the bad times, to be involved in games like this at the business end of the season. We are in it. We can win it. It certainly won't help season ticket sales. Absolutely. Absolutely. Kevin CSC, no matter what happens now, looks good for next season. A battling win last night shows real character and strength. Ian Burchnall said he wants to win both games to keep the momentum going. So I'd be surprised to see too many changes against Bromley, brackets, if we beat Weymouth. What's Ian's mood like now, Leigh? You would have been talking to him after the game. What do you think he makes of it all?
Oh, he'd be buzzing, isn't he? I mean, I would be. I mean, and he seems, he's naturally delighted, and I think I would be too. I mean, the team's in great form, isn't it? It's creating chances. Players have come in and done a really good job. Michael Doyle's slotted in seamlessly into that assistant head coach role, and I think, excuse me, I think the benefit of having a player assistant head coach, and perhaps I don't not really heard about this much mentioned, is, what a person to have instructions out on the pitch. 39 years old, captain of the team, if the manager needs to get instructions out onto the pitch, is there anybody better in that side to do it? I mean, again, I think he has been an unbelievable signing for Notts County. I think he's a tremendous player, and you know, Ian's doing a really good job at the moment. You got to give him credit for that. You know, he's stuck with the 3-5-2. Players have come in and done a really good job. And last night he was fulsome in his praise. I think the thing that perhaps most delighted him the most last night was the fact that the battling side of it, because you know, if you go back through some of the games this season, when it's become that sort of aerial dogfight, there's been games where we've come up short and conceded some real sloppy goals. But you know, by Wrexham didn't half bang it in the box at every opportunity, and they withstood that. And I think, you know, considering he was out without Conor Rawlinson and without Alex Lacey, to do that and defend as well as he did, you know, unbelievable. And I've got to say, Mark Ellis at the moment, I mean, that was probably one of the best centre-half performances I've seen this season from any of the club centre-halves. You know, he was absolutely phenomenal. And Jake Reeves as well, starting to come into a bit of form as well. You know, much maligned by some fans. You know, you hear a lot of arguments about, oh, you can't play O'Brien, Reeves and Doyle together because the legs have gone. Apparently, Reeves' running stats for, I can't remember which game it was, were absolutely off the chart. So, you know, those three have, again, brilliant in the first half last night. Distances were really good, very aggressive in terms of their positioning in a forward sense. And it just seems to me at the moment that things are falling into place at exactly the right time. They seem to be hitting some peak form, you know, a good time. And I don't think, as Chloe said, I don't think anybody will relish facing Notts right now.
I think you just missed out, ahead of Mark Ellis, the Magpie Circle sponsored Mark.
Yeah, so you snuck it in now, though. There you go. I'll set you up perfectly.
Absolutely. That's an interesting point, because it was kind of a big call, Chloe, when Ben Turner was left out on Saturday. Given we knew Bromley would play a lot of balls into the box, a very strong physical side with a lot of height. We drew to Wool, played extremely well, but did concede 2 goals from crosses. Equally, we would have known, the management team last night, that Wrexham would play a not dissimilar game plan, and they did. Again, Ben didn't come back in. He persisted with the 3 centre-halves in a 3-5-2. With only 1 recognised centre-half, and we kept a clean sheet. So I think that fully vindicates Ian's team selection, because to get a clean sheet away at Wrexham with the style that they play is no mean achievement when they came under an awful lot of pressure in the second half.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes about how much he believes in his players. I think it's very difficult when you lose someone like Rawlinson out of your side, and it's kind of, what do you do from there? And it is a little bit more attacking going with Brindley in the position rather than Turner, but it just shows you how much he believes in his players. He's the one that sees them in training. I know you don't get as much training as you'd like, with obviously being Saturday, Tuesday every week, but keep swapping and changing your team. It's never going to help. And he clearly saw something in them in the Bromley game, and he stuck with it. And all you've got to do is praise him, because I don't think one of the defenders come out with a lot of stick from last night. Bodies on the line, Dion Kelly-Evans with a block in the box, I think it was, and it's worked. So why change it now? Obviously, Lacey out and Rawlinson out, and if he'll be back on Saturday, I don't know, but another clean sheet, and that's all we can be asking for, because I was on a couple of weeks ago and that seemed to be the only thing that was missing. I know we conceded the 2 against Bromley, but that clean sheet's come back, and like you say, against Wrexham, and balls will come in all over the box. So all you can do is praise him and keep going forward. And whether Rawlinson comes in on Saturday or whether it's Brindley again, I think they've all got the fight in them, and they'll all carry it on through. So I don't think you'll see much of a change in performance in defence. Whether you see a different change of personnel, I don't know. It just depends whether Rawlinson's back or not.
Leigh, I think one of some fans' frustrations when Neil was at the helm was Notts had a lot of possession, often in our own half or halfway line. But there was a concern that we went after the opposition. It's noticeable, certainly in the last 2 or 3 games, from the very first kickoff, there's a real hunger and desire to go at the opposition, literally from the kickoff. The midfield push up more, and we kind of go for the jugular more, which is clearly something that is very, very well received by fans. And that is clearly something that Ian has tried to inject into the team. I think he used the phrase risk averse when he first came to the club, and that was to an extent subject to some derision in the first few results, because you didn't see a lot of it. But in recent games, Notts have gone after the opposition a lot more, which the fans like to see.
Yeah, it's almost caught me out by surprise as well, because I remember there was one game where I was just looking at my keyboard, typing up, and literally the whistle had been blown. And I looked up and Calvin Miller's in the box. I'm thinking, crikey. So now it's straight from kickoff, and and I think that's always good. Try and catch teams on the up, and I think what's been most impressive, I think, in terms of the attacking prowess is that we're not afraid to shoot from distance anymore. If you look at Jake Reeves last night, he had he scored obviously a wonderful goal, but he had a shot from just outside the box, which was saved. Jim O'Brien too. Sometimes I think we've passed up that opportunity too many times this season. If you don't, obviously you don't shoot, you don't score, do you? So I think we're doing that a lot more, and I don't think there's any harm in doing that. So that's certainly something that's been noticeable. And I think that the free role that Reuben's been given has been a real handful for some teams, because they're not sure whether to go with him, leave him, and he plays so well in between the lines. He's very, very difficult to track, and I think that's had a real impact since he's come into the team. So, if I'm looking at it, Carl Wotton's playing well at the moment. I know he's not as quite scoring the goals as regularly as you perhaps like, but I think the work he does outside the box and the contribution he makes all round to the team, that shouldn't go underestimated either. I think he's playing really well at the moment, although I thought last night the refereeing decisions, some of them against him, penalised for some really soft challenges. But everything seems to be working well. The team's got, it looks like it's got a nice balance to it. You've got Miller on the left-hand side, who's quick. Dion Kelly-Evans on the other side, who's very quick. I don't think he's quite as good in the 1v1 situations as Calvin Miller, but of course Calvin played as a winger. Dion Kelly-Evans has always been naturally a right back, but I think those two are very quick. That their pace helps, because I do think that Notts this season haven't had that sort of injection of pace that I think we perhaps have needed. But yeah, it's looking really good at the moment. And like I say, I think, they'll just want the next game to come around as quickly as possible, because they're on such a great run at the moment. I was looking back to last year's results before the pandemic hit and halted the season. I think Notts in that period won 9 out of 14 league games, which is a tremendous run. And we were all wondering whether they could do something similar. And we look to be, touch wood, and we'll keep it up, is we look to be in that sort of same kind of form. You're turning up, the players, full confidence. Whoever's going to come in is going to come and do a job, and that's how it feels at the moment. So, and 2 games left of the season left to play. I fully expect Notts to finish in the top 7, and then we take it from there.
Right. Before you go for an early lie down, let's just look at all the computations, the permutations, feed them into the Magpie Circle computer, which we do most weeks. So if Notts win Saturday, irrespective of what anybody else does, we are in the playoffs. If we win and Wrexham, who are at home to Kings Lynn, and Eastleigh, who are at home to Boreham Wood, if both of those don't win, i.e. they draw or lose, we're guaranteed 5th. and we can go and lose 96-0 at Bromley, by my reckoning. Because if we win, we have a 4-point gap over Chesterfield, Bromley and Halifax going into the final game of the season. So they then could not overhaul us. But Wrexham could do us on goal difference if they win. And Eastleigh can also catch us because they have one extra game, by my reckoning. In terms of the game Saturday, so Wrexham are at home to Kings Lynn. Eastleigh are at home to Boreham Wood. Chesterfield have got Dagenham at home, which could be tricky. Bromley have got, I think it's Aldershot away. And Halifax have got Maidenhead away. Chloe, so how do you see it all? Who's going to be
in our hands? I just see it in our hands. And I've got the last night, after we won last night, I, totally honest, before the game thought it'd be a draw. I didn't think we'd lose it. But as soon as we scored that goal, I thought we'd win it. And then as soon as the final whistle went, in my eyes, well, we've obviously not secured fifth, but we're in with the best chance. And we've got obviously the home game to Weymouth. The fans are in, and I think everyone is expecting us to win that game. I don't know whether after Saturday's game Bromley can be out of the playoffs. I'm not sure how many points they are if they lose, obviously, on Saturday. But I just see it in our hands. All we can do is keep winning. And if we beat Weymouth after beating Wrexham, why can't we go and beat Bromley away and get fifth? And I think that will be massive to have a home draw. But do you know if we do play Wrexham away, for argument's sake, in the playoffs, can they have fans?
This is an interesting one. I was talking to the Wrexham reporter last night. No, they weren't allowed fans last night, were they? Because they come under the Welsh government.
Yeah, I didn't know whether that had changed, obviously, in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I think it might do, but I think it's the. And they obviously are governed by the Welsh government. So, because I was saying last night, I asked him last night, were they going to have fans in? I'm not sure. They're at home. They're at home this weekend, aren't they?
Yeah.
And he said no, they're not allowed any. So, which he said was a big bone of a big sort of frustration for them, because obviously they get a decent crowd in. But I think if you want Notts to finish fourth or fifth, really, I think. You want
fourth. I mean, that's the first time fourth has raised the mention for a while. We have to win both, and Hartlepool and Stockport have to lose both, don't we?
Well, no, but well, you never know what can happen. But no, I think you want that home tie. I think just because I think the fans make such a huge difference at Meadow Lane. I'm really looking forward to seeing them back this weekend, because I do think that's partly been responsible for the home form's not been as good as it was last year. I just think teams have found it a little bit easy coming to Meadow Lane. Beautiful surface, beautiful facilities, but there's been no hostility. And when you come to Meadow Lane and there's that atmosphere, and you've got all the fans in the cop screaming at you and creating that fabulous atmosphere, singing, whipping out their hymn sheets and singing all the songs, it is a formidable place to go come and play. And I think a lot of teams at this level, certainly the ones who aren't used to it, and they come and see the big crowds, I do think psychologically has a massive impact on them. And of course that's been stripped away this year. So to have the fans back in for Saturday and then potentially for the playoffs, I think could be absolutely pivotal. Go on, mate.
I was just going to say, Leigh, I am 12.5% Welsh. My great-great-grandfather comes from Newport, and my son's been following this story. Newport were allowed fans in last night for their playoff game. And I think what happens is that Wrexham have been told they can't have fans in for a regular season home game. But if they get into the playoffs and they get a home playoff, they have to apply for permission, which is likely to be granted, because that's what's happened with Newport. And I think Swansea have also got this coming up with their home playoff as well. So I think the theory is that if for some reason Wrexham were fifth and we were sixth, Wrexham would apply to have fans in the ground, and it is likely it would be granted. At the minute, the Newport game last night against Forest Green, for those of that were watching it, fans were in, and it was deemed a test venue, or whatever you want to call it, for Welsh stadiums and football. So I think that is what is likely to happen. Yeah, if you're with me. Now then, I want to inject a little bit of levity before we go, or before you go. So I want us to, just for a minute, think that we get to Ashton Gate, and we can discuss that with Chloe after you depart for your lie down. Hang on, I'm just being fed something. I'll have a look in a minute. Right. Well, I've lost my train of thought now. Right. So I want to inject a bit of levity. Imagine for a moment we get back into the EFL. Okay. And so I want us all, and the other guests will be doing the same with Stells. We're hoping to get Charlie Slater on. We'll get one or two others on. I want us all to volunteer some form of forfeit. Yeah. If we get back into the Football League. Any suggestions welcome. Here's what I will do. Okay. Do you remember when Leicester City won the Premier League? And do you remember what Gary Lineker did fronting Match of the Day?
Naked, didn't he?
Oh, I don't he went quite that far.
He wears some kind of thong. You're not going to do that, are you?
I ain't going that far. He presented Match of the Day in his Leicester City underpants. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So if we win and get back into the Football League, I will host the post-promotion party back into the EFL, right, in a special pair of Notts County underpants. All right, that's my forfeit if we get promoted, right? And I've already got your forfeit sorted as well.
Go on, what's that? Your
forfeit is live on air. So while I've got my Notts County underpants on, you, 80 Clark's beaten me to it. He's beat me to it. He's beat me to it. You are going to get your good lady to shave your head live on air on the show if we get promoted back into the Football League.
That is a very, very good forfeit. Are
you on for that?
I'll give it some serious consideration, of course. I'm sure I can come up with that.
Ashton Gate, when we do the show afterwards, you shave your head live.
I'll tell you what, I'll make it better. The players can shave my head there at the stadium.
Yeah?
Not all off, though. Just a grade 2 back and sides.
No, it's got to be complete.
Yeah, well, I won't be coming on this show for a while if that happens.
He grows back quicker at your age.
Well, I'd like to. Well, does it? I'd like to think so, but I'm not sure. It's dropping out watching Notts. No, you know.
So all of the suggestions for forfeits, feel free. Chloe, you'll have to come up with something. We'll be speaking with Stel. He'll have to come up with something. Charlie as well. And what I also want to do on Saturday is make it a bit of as best we can, a bit of a carnival atmosphere. So I want, obviously you've seen all my shirts here. So I want all our followers, watchers, listeners, choose your favourite Notts County shirt. Could be a special player worn one. It could be the first one you ever got, if it still fits. It could be an Adidas shirt from the 1980s. Wear your favourite shirt. Okay, send the photos into the Magpie Circle when you're back at the ground and make it into a bit of a fun day, a carnival day for the first time that we are back at Meadow Lane in 14 months, I think it is, something like that. Right. Do you need to go for a lie down now, Leigh?
Yeah, I'm going to dib off, mate. I think I'm not.
Thank you. Get yourself sorted. Busy day tomorrow. And we look forward, we all look forward, don't we, to being in Meadow Lane on Saturday.
Yes, look forward to seeing the fans back. Like I say, it's been too long. I'm just looking forward to the noise more than anything, and obviously seeing people again. So, I missed the chats with the two old fellas outside the pavy stand, although I'm not sure they might be there on at the weekend. But, just to see Meadow Lane, hear I had a wheelbarrow chant and all the other hymns that come from the cot will be an absolute joyous experience, because I have missed them. It hasn't been the same. I know I've been privileged to cover games while this pandemic has been on, but it's been pretty soulless, to be honest, without the supporters. So I really can't wait to have them back and hear them and see them all singing and hopefully smiling come 5 p.m.
Very good, Nick. Thank you for your time. We'll let you get your head down and get all those not stories prepared ahead of Saturday.
Lovely.
Cheers, Leigh.
Take care, mate.
Carrying on as normal. We're carrying on as normal. Chloe, we've not had a chance to debate much Ashton Gate, which on the face of it was not an obvious choice for the playoff final. I think to put a bit of context into this, it is very, very difficult in the third week of June to find any decent sized professional football ground that is not undergoing fairly remedial work on their pitch. June is the month when everything is done by all the Premier League clubs, Championship clubs. So it is very difficult, and it's my understanding, because obviously we can't have Wembley because of the European Championships. All your big grounds, your villas, etc., the groundsman will be at it doing the work. So it's very difficult. It probably would have helped if the National League had kind of put some context into that announcement. But it's a bit of a schlep, isn't it?
Yeah, we was actually looking at it today, and we looked at it from everyone's perspective. So every possibility that could get into the playoffs. And the only kind of teams that it helps out are Torquay and Eastleigh. And even from then, it's a couple of hours. So I suppose no matter where you put it, people weren't going to be happy because you've got two very southern teams. But then I look at it from Hartlepool's perspective, and we looked at it, it's over 5 hours for them. And it's just, like you say, without context, it's very easy to slag them off. And we should have had a team that's a ground that's a bit more central. But again, that would have helped us in Chesterfield. So with teams all over the country and even in Wales, it was always going to be difficult to get a neutral ground. So I expect the league just kind of, I assume they had a list of what was available to them. And then I'd like to think they chose somewhere with the biggest capacity, because obviously we was working it out actually when I was at work the other day. And we worked it out that we'd both get around about 3,500 because it holds 27. So you're looking at what the biggest capacity is really. But like you say, I would like to know the rationality behind it. But to be honest, do we care where the final is as long as we're there? I don't think anybody's going to complain about a 2.5 hour drive if it means we're in the final.
Yeah, we've got your granddad who works on East Midland trains. He's been tasked with trying to organise a railway special from Nottingham to Bristol.
Yeah.
So
I know it's a bit of a trek because it's on a Sunday, isn't it, the final? And I know trains aren't ideal on a Sunday. So if you can get that, I mean, we'd all be jumping on it, I bet.
Yeah, well, it's all over to your granddad. No pressure, Mr. Scanlon. A few more thoughts. Catherine Simkiss, playoff quartet of Notts, Hartlepool, Wrexham, and Eastleigh sneaking in, which of course would mean no Chesterfield. Elvis Bott, are all the loan players available to play in the playoffs? Yes, I believe they are. Yes, there hasn't been any recall clause, as I understand it, put in, so they will be with us for the duration of those. Notts 80 says, looking forward to seeing the glorious San Cyril. AD Clark, I'm sure Ian Burchnall will have a lump in his throat when he walks out on Saturday. The fans will give the players such a lift. Dale Pike, it's Mark Stallard, his forfeit. Stell can get on the mic and sing I Had a Wheelbarrow. That would be interesting, won't it? David Amy, 2 hours 35 minutes from Silverdale Yard in the coach. Don't know whether it be Silverdale coaches. I used to remember those from years ago. Yeah, no, it's the more ambitious ones of us. 8 o'clock. I've already booked overnight accommodation in Bristol, but not told the wife yet. Weymouth, going back to that game on Saturday. How much do we have to guard against after the Lord Mayor's show? A couple of fans have contacted me to talk about when Notts were going for it under, I think it was Keith Curle, and we played Bury. Yeah, they had nothing to play for, and Bury won something like 4-1 or 4-2 at Meadow Lane. It was ultimately that victory that meant we just missed out by a point or so on the playoffs. We're all presuming a lot here at the minute, aren't we?
Yeah, I hate to go back to previous games, but it's the easiest thing to compare it to of how confident we were against Hornchurch. And I think we can get easily blindsided by the results that we've had recently and, oh, they've got nothing to play for. We've got the fans in. That it can go one of two ways. The fans can add a lot of pressure or they can really get behind them. So I'm not ruling tomorrow, Saturday, out of not just being a win. I would love to say that it's going to be, and I've had us down for the win, and I don't really want to change that. But I don't also want to be blindsided by what we were like the Hornchurch game. So I think we've got to be, I don't know what the word is. I think you've just got to be wary, and I don't think we can place our bets on the win. But all the fans can do is get behind them. We've got all 4 stands, so from every direction, you've got Notts County fans, and every single one of them, no matter how we're playing, needs to be on the side of the players because it's only going to help them. And I know a lot of people that I was on the phone to actually at work are quite glad to be back in this Cyril and all the stories of I used to sit there. And so I think people are going to quite enjoy being able to sit, obviously, in a different stand that they would usually. I know you're sat in the Cop and you'd usually maybe sit in the Pavis. So it's going to be very different. I'm sat in a different seat and I imagine most people are. So, but I think no matter where you are in the ground, it'll be a great atmosphere. But I'm in 9 o'clock on Saturday, so it's going to be a long wait until 3 o'clock for me.
Are you able to share any information with us as fans as to how it works on Saturday? So from a seating perspective, if you are in the same family bubble, potentially you could have 3 or 4 seats together, correct? From the same household, same family. But with your mates or whatever, you will all be socially distanced. So does that kind of mean it's automatically 3 seats apart, 4 seats apart, 2 seats? Is it a little bit more random than that?
So what happened was we aren't allowed, for social distancing reasons, everyone was told that you can only make a booking up to 6 people because obviously that's the social distance rules from within your bubble. So everyone was told when purchasing tickets, try and keep it to your bubble. Obviously, we've got no way of proving that to anyone, but originally when the tickets went out, they were only to season ticket holders and then they were only to Lifeline members. So there's a lot of people that are sat on their own. And the reason we couldn't give anyone with a season ticket holder an extra ticket, so there was quite a lot of people that, for argument's sake, said it was their dad and the son, and the son's under 18 or doesn't have a season ticket or doesn't have a Lifeline member. And there was a lot of people that were quite upset the fact that they either had to buy a ticket on their own or they had to wait to general sale to get a ticket together. And that's because the amount of season ticket holders we have, if we said to every season ticket holder that you could have one other ticket, not every season ticket holder would have had the opportunity to get a ticket. Obviously, the case wasn't that every season ticket holder wanted a ticket, but then a lot of people were then able to get 2 tickets on the general sale. So how it went was you've got to have a whole row in front of you with no one sat there and a row behind you and 2 seats either side. So it was quite randomly allocated because of social distancing. But there was a lot of people that were kind of ringing up and asking why they couldn't go and sit next to someone that had bought one previously. And that's not because you're not in the same social bubble, it's because that encroaches on the next booking.
Right.
So if you bought, so for argument's sake, if you was a season ticket holder and you bought a ticket on your own, and when general sale went, we had a lot of people ringing saying, can I have this certain seat? And you would have been fine to sit next to whoever it was in your household. But if we'd have put them there, that would have then been too close to the next people. So that just kind of clears up any confusion over why people couldn't have certain seats. But I think the general consensus was everyone's just happy to be there, and it's one game, so everyone's just glad they got a ticket in the end.
Very good. And am I right in thinking that the extra tickets that the club have now been able to source or make available, they are in the family stand, are they?
Yeah, so originally we weren't allowed to sell any seats in the family stand because of the away side. They're located under the family stand. So we've got some training facilities in there, and we've got a dressing room in there that's usually used for midweek training and purposes and stuff like that. But a lot of people will have noticed that for pretty much all of the season, that the away team actually come out of the family stand, and that's obviously due to social distancing within the Derry Pavers stand. So for again, social distancing reasons, we weren't allowed to sell any of the family stand. But then we've since kind of asked for permission, and they have given us that stand. So I assume that maybe there might be some entrances blocked off, because where the changing rooms located in the family stand, there's like a walkway that goes under the stand out onto the pitch. So I don't completely understand what's going to happen, because I haven't been there to have a conversation with anyone, but I assume that because we're allowed fans in, and it kind of runs through the concourse from kind of where the ticket office is, it runs straight through onto the pitch. So maybe that'll be blocked off. But we had a waiting list, obviously, because they sold out so quickly after the general sale, and a lot of them people were now able to get a ticket in the family stand. So I assume that's what's going to happen.
Well, look, thanks for the clarity with that, Chloe. And I think that to all our viewers and listeners gives us some insight into the protocols, the rules, the guidelines that the club has to adhere to in terms of when we see those spaces, because we've seen a few matches on the television this week, and we kind of see some people seemingly concentrated in a certain area and then big gaps around other people. There is method in the apparent madness, and so I think the clear message must be to everyone that's got a ticket: please sit in the seat that you have been allocated. You know, clearly we as fans need to do our bit, because we hope that by finishing in 5th place, we get a home playoff game, when I'm sure tickets will be even more in demand. And the more we as supporters can demonstrate that we adhere to the rules that have been prescribed and laid out, because rest assured, I'm sure the safety advisory group will be monitoring this very closely. You know, if we see 100 people all conveniently gathered in 100 seats together in the COP, you know, I think it's pretty obvious we ain't adhering to it. So I think it's important we as supporters play our part, sit in the seats that we're supposed to, because hopefully we've got a home playoff game, and we might, if we do things properly as supporters, be able to squeeze a few more seats, which we would absolutely need for any 5th place home playoff game.
Yeah,
Right.
it is vitally important that everyone does stick to their seats, obviously, because there has been a lot of work, not just from me, but from all of the staff, kind of to get this game back with the fans. And they've looked at it for a long period of time of stations they're going to set up and how many seats we have to keep free. So it is really important that everyone does stick to their seats. It's one game, and that's all people are asking. Obviously, if we get into the playoffs, that's a different story. But next season, hopefully, we'll be able to sit next to whoever we want. But yeah, and I know there's a lot of information that's been put out on the club's social media and even on their website. So if anyone's unsure of what kind of protocols they need to do and entrances, and I also know that the bars won't be open on the concourse, but there will be like burger vans provided as well. It just stops everyone congregating in the concourse. So there is a lot of information that you can, if anybody's kind of nervous about going or doesn't know what procedures they need to take, just have a really quick read just before you go to the game. And also, I know a lot of people were worried if they didn't get their tickets posted out to them in time, or if they didn't receive an email, or even if the barcodes don't scan at the ground, because if you've got an email with the tickets on your phone, if you've got a cracked phone screen, it might not scan. But if you do have any issues with tickets or before you go to the game, the ticket office will be open for reprints only and kind of any issues with tickets. It won't be open for ticket sales because all the tickets will have gone. But if you do have any issues with tickets, it will be open.
Leigh really says, very true, Paul, and more seats will be better if fans behave. Kyle Sadler, if the club are doing their bit, us fans need to do ours. Leigh, really well said, Kyle. Kevin Searcy, can't make Saturday, but will you guys make some extra noise for me? I'm sure we will collectively. Northants Pie, what time does the ground open, Chloe? Is it 2 o'clock as normal, or is it a little bit later?
I haven't been fully made aware of that, so I'm sure it'll be definitely put out from the club.
Yeah,
so
the club will advise us. The club
yeah.
will advise us of that. I am absolutely.
So I would just keep looking at the Twitter account or the website, and it'll be made very clear at what time. It might even say on the tickets. I don't want to give out wrong information. So
we will all check, and we will know what time we need to get in. Talking of time, we've done our hour. It's flown by as always. Thank you to Leigh for joining us earlier. Thank you as always to Chloe. Don't forget, either of these 2 shirts you want and you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, click the red button, and then in the messages just say which shirt you would like. We're about 50 subscribers short of 1,000. We hit the 1,000 mark. I want to do that before Saturday. We'll be giving one of these 2 shirts away. So red button, click subscribe. And we all look forward to getting back together again on Saturday against Weymouth. We win, we are guaranteed a place in the playoffs. Couldn't get much more of an incentive or better than that, especially when you think back to 4, 5, 6 weeks ago about where we were, but where we are now. Thank you all again for tuning in, for watching and listening. We'll be back next week. No midweek game. When you first time, not a midweek game for a little while, but we will be back Monday and Wednesday. Chloe, thank you again for joining us.
thanks for having me.
That's great. We will see you all soon.